XM Studios Brown Wolverine is in the house. Is he awesome? Is he better than all the other Wolverines? Well, today we're going to try and find out. Hey everybody, my name is Mr. X. This is the Extreme channel. Extreme collecting is a big part of the channel. If you are already saying wow and you like this kind of stuff, go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now, because this is what most of the channel is, talking about really cool pieces like this. So to kind of catch you up to speed, I like Wolverine. Shocker. And XM Studios is a statue manufacturing company that just came out with this centerpiece right here. It is the XM Studios 1/4 scale Brown Wolverine. He's not brown, his costume is. So today we're going to review him. We're going to review him using the extreme scale. If you don't know what that is, go check out this review right here. We're going to look and see, is he the best Wolverine? We have a lot of different options. And these are just what's on the table, not everything that's in the Extreme collection. We actually have more Wolverines coming to the Extreme collection. This guy right here is stuck in China. This is a kit of a Samurai Wolverine. We also have a Soldier Wolverine kit that is stuck overseas. Should be arriving soon. We have another Soldier Wolverine that'll probably come out later this year or next year that we have on order. We have a yellow costume custom Wolverine coming out. We have another Wolverine vs. Sentinel coming out. And another Wolverine vs. Sentinel head. Also, an Age of Apocalypse custom Wolverine I can't show you. And these are just the standalone Wolverines. It does not include Wolverine dioramas. Right now where I'm sitting, I see 9 Wolverine dioramas. This guy's kind of part of a diorama, but we're going to make an exception for this review. So, I'm a Wolverine nut. I love Wolverine. What is the best Wolverine statue out there? Every one of these on the table I absolutely love, especially the fat one. I can relate to him. But I purchased XM Studios Wolverine for 2 reasons. One, I didn't have a brown suited Wolverine, so that made sense, at least in a single standalone piece. 2, he was sculpted by the amazing Romel Chopra. I think that's how it's pronounced, Chopra. And he does some really, really cool stuff. For example, one of my most anticipated pieces by him is Prime 1 Studios 1/3 scale Lobo right here. And I'm a big fan of XM Studios. I probably have 20 or 30 of their pieces, and their quality is just second to none, and you're going to find out today that's not an exception with this guy. So he cost between 1,000 and 1,100 Singapore dollars. The conversion rate for Singapore to USD is about 76 cents on the dollar, so he costs anywhere from 750 to 850 US dollars, plus shipping from China, which is generally a couple $100. Now, XM Studios does this new thing called made to order. So they open a pre-order window for, I think it's 4 to 6 weeks, and however many they order, that is what the edition size or how many they're going to make of this piece. They only made 650 of this piece, and congrats to everybody who nabbed them. As you're going to see by the end of this video, he is definitely worth it. Now, if you missed the video yesterday, we did a live unboxing and assembly of this piece, so you can check that out right here. It'll give you an idea of the parts, of how it went together, and give you some more close-ups. But you're going to see a ton of that today as we jump into this review. And we're going to talk about 5 different things with this review. We're going to talk about concept, design, paint, sculpt, value, and then we're going to look at a comparison. We might call that an extrumble. If you've seen those before, you know those are statue comparisons. Now, starting with concept on this guy, starting at the base here, you have a lot of Asian affluence. It's kind of like the Samurai period. Reminds me of XM's Samurai DC line that they're doing. A few different things going on the base. It's on the roof of a building. You can see some swords, some statues, things like that. A statue on a statue. and it's really worn and old. And as you move up, he is in his brown suit and he's in a dynamic pose. So what I mean by that is his brown suit was the second or third suit that they debuted him in. Not debuted, but he kind of went through transformation over the years from yellow to brown to yellow, and then some other ones you see on the table here. And dynamic pose means he's in the middle of an action. He's lunging, he's attacking, which is classic Wolverine. He really looks badass on this. Some of the close-ups you're going to see on Paint and Sculpt really exemplify that. And different switch out options let you do a number of things, including display him holding some swords. More ties back to that samurai aspect that we're talking about. And he's very, very badass in this. I love the concept. I like that it's different. It's not your traditional yellow Wolverine on a plain base. It's not your Wolverine versus Sentinel. As you see on this table, there's a few different concepts of things going on. And there's some other Wolverine statues out there, of course, I don't own. A lot of people are asking why I didn't recently get the premium format, this one right here. I just passed because I have another, I should have looked up Logan. I have like 2 other custom Logans coming as well. Here's a picture of one of them right here. So concept is awesome. I like the fact it's different. It shows Wolverine's roots. It shows Wolverine's a little bit of his heritage. It shows him in a fighting position, an attacking position, and some of the design options we're going to talk about really add to that concept. I love the concept on this. I think it's a W on the concept. It's a rail. It's a 4 out of 5. Next thing we're going to talk about is design with this guy. With design, we talk about displayability. We talk about how everything fit together. We talk about seam lines. We discuss the switch outs. So let's start with the switch outs because there's a crap load of them. And I really can't decide which way to go. First switch out option, let's look at the unmasked or uncowled portrait. So you have this option, his mouth is closed, still a fierce, fighting, lunging portrait, obviously, and we'll look at the details with Paint and Sculpt as always. And then you have the masked portrait with the cowl on, mouth wide open. A lot of the same effect, but kind of more so. Now the arms, there's so many different options, and the first thing I kind of want to show you is the bone claw and the metal claw options. It actually came with 24 different claws. So what I've done is I put the bone claws on the right hands and the metal claws on the left hands. Here's some comparison. You have 3 different sets of arms that you can do, or you can intermix them. And I'm going to show you quite a few pictures of both. But here are pictures of them, the same arm on each side, claw by claw, because they're identical. Or claw comparing to claw. But first one here he is holding swords, his arms back, holding swords. And you see his claws are actually coming out. So this is definitely an option you can do. But you could also remove his claws so he's just holding the swords. And here are some pictures of one arm with the sword and one arm with some of the other options to kind of give you an idea. I honestly don't know how I'm going to display it. There are so many good options. But it's pretty cool that XM did this. And if you don't want to display the swords in his hands, you can actually put them in the base. Check this out right here. And they have that samurai helmet that's actually movable. So you could put it next to the swords, you could take it off, you could put it on the other side. Next one we're going to look at is his arms are still lunged back, but he has the Wolverine claws out. And it's not the exact same angle as the swords, which I like. They mixed it up. They just didn't use the same sculpt and modify it a little bit. So here's a picture of this intermixing with the next option we're going to look at, where his claws are pushed forward like he's about to stab someone. But just some photos for you guys, like I said, to give you an idea of all the different display options. If they offered this in a yellow variant, it'd make me want to buy 2 because of all the different display options. And here's the last option. Both of his claws lunging forward, like I said. Pretty damn cool. And obviously I wouldn't display one hand with bone claws and one hand with metal claws. I'm doing that just for you guys. I think I'm going to go with the bone claws, and we'll talk about that with Paint and Sculpt. While all those switch outs tell a similar story, some other things going on with the design is it's pretty cool that there was no issues. Everything fits very tightly. The swords fall out a little bit on the side when you move it. Not really a big deal. There is a seam line with the cowled portrait. Check it out right here. So there is a seam line that exists. However, the unmasked portrait, there is no seam line. So there's really no way to engineer it differently. One thing I really like about this piece, here's another picture of the side of it. Instead of being really wide, it's really deep. A lot of times, this really helps the displayability of it, putting extra characters next to it. I also like the fact that it's a little bit higher up, so you can display him, as I'm showing you here on this table, a little bit behind some other stuff. That's a cool feature. Now, one issue is this big fish in the back. So this is the back of the statue. I don't understand why they did this. It doesn't really make sense. We're going to look at the paint and sculpt separately, but the fish is kind of what was going on there? So design-wise, I'm really trying to find a flaw other than the seam line, and most people are going to display him like I have him now, so you won't really see that seam line. I can't really find a lot of design issues. The design's not perfect, but it's damn good. It's a 4 out of 5. It's a rail, W-R-A-I-L, which stands for a statue you really want, but not quite a grail. Next two categories we're going to do at the same time, paint and sculpt. And with these, we're going to start at the bottom, look at the base, move all the way to the top. And just kind of a spoiler, guys, it's phenomenal. It is really, really good. So let's just go ahead and get started. So with the base here, first I want to tackle the paint on this. I know usually I do the sculpt and paint together, but it's really interesting. So this top of the building, initially it looks gray under certain lights, and then you start to see this green tint to it. And there's some browns and red colors built into there, and I'm not talking about the gold decorative ornaments we're going to look at in a second, but I like the fact that it's kind of a mix of those colors, and you can't really tell which one it is. It really ties back, I think, to the concept of the statue. However, it's kind of a boring color, but it's done really well. The paint's really clean. The sculpt is pretty cool too. I like how everything's broken and rickety. I think there could have been some more detail towards the back or bottom of the sides here, but it looks good overall. And obviously this base is not the star of the show. And they went all out on this base. Check out the ornamental parts I'm talking about, the decorative gold parts here. Looks really good. Again, ties back well to the concept. Take a look at under the kind of the peak here. I really like this down here. It almost looks like there's some moist effects. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe it's just me imagining it, but it really looks like some moist effects. I like the wooden beams in there. More of the gold effects. And this is, of course, a part you'll never see. And on the back of it, they actually have some wood from the building jutting out. It looks okay. I've seen better wood. There could have been a little bit more detail in the sculpt, some better shading on the paint. But honestly, this is still a pretty kick-ass base, and it's probably the weakest part of the statue. The one part I don't like, and I talked about this a little bit with the design, is this fish. I understand the tie-ins to the concept, but first, as I said, it's ugly, it faces backwards, and it's this kind of puke green color, which is probably accurate for the times, but just not my cup of tea. The sculpt on it, however, is very good. All the different scales and spikes and fins and the crazy Japanese-looking culture aspect to the fish head. Some quick shots of this samurai helmet, and you saw that as movable. I like this. It's battle damaged a little bit, but not too much. I like the red paint they use for it. It's a cool Easter egg. Nobody would have missed this if they didn't include it with the statue, but it's still neat to have, and the paint and the design to it is pretty cool. The blades, so it is not made of real metal. They're not shiny like his claws are, and I like that. It's different. It's a little bit different contrast. The hilts look decent. I mean, they're kind of plastic toys, and it's something in the background anyway, so it's not a big deal. But now we get to Wolverine, and as I said earlier, it's just phenomenally done from every part of it, every single part of this figure. Both the paint and sculpt. You can see on the boots here, I love the leather coloring and the shading. Makes it look like real leather, but the sculpt is just a knock out of the park, and the boots are the worst part, and they're phenomenal. Not only can you see the folds and the texture in them, on the leather part, but the black treads look great. Check out the detail in this zipper. This is phenomenal. Very, very cool. Let's move up his legs here, and the paint first. You see the typical shading that you see with Wolverine, kind of where the indentions are. It's a little bit more of an orange color. The rest of it's yellow. I love the texture on this. It's this linear aspect to it. It looks great. It really pops. Makes you want to touch it. Tons of folds in his costume and creases, and you can still see the awesome Wolverine anatomy, especially in his thighs. And in this pose, he's actually jumping. So I love the anatomy in the statue overall, as you're going to see in the torso is fantastic as well. It's not overly bulky, but it's perfect for Wolverine because he is much more fit. His underwear looks great too. Again, the leather coloring they just used on here and the texture and the sculpt are perfect in my opinion. Few people asked about his belt. Here's the belt. I like the red. It really contrasts the statue. It's not an X-Man belt because this is, out of that time period. But it looks great. Very old, very faded. Has a little bit of that Asian affluence to it that the whole statue does, especially with the belt buckle or the belt tip here. They did a great job on the sculpt of this with the belt loops, every part of it. His torso is out of this world, so it combines a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, the brown leather aspect of the statue, along with the yellow parts. All that's the same, the texture, the paint, but then you have the anatomy underneath this, and it's awesome Wolverine anatomy. Not only very fit, you see the six-pack underneath it, but on the sides, how his anatomy is stretched back because his arms are stretched back. And depending which switch outs you have here, you can see it better. Anatomy on the back looks good too. It's not too bumpy, too bulky. Like in Twins, when Arnold Schwarzenegger took off his shirt, Danny DeVito was wondering if he had some type of problem. The arms are awesome as well. They're not quite perfect. I have one small critique, but they didn't overdo it on the coloring of the Wolverine arm hair, which you see so often. I think this is the perfect amount. Awesome anatomy on here. A lot of the veins running through. They could have used a little bit more blue hint in the veins. A little bit more. And maybe it's just my statue that doesn't have them. But I like the skin texture. Let's look at his gloves. And here's some shots on the statue and then off. His gloves are phenomenal. Not only the sculpt of them, but the folds. How the black is padded on are strapped around the brown. Really well done here. Take a look at the underside of some of these. Great sculpt on the hands, the straps holding it in. Then here's the claws. Here's the metallic claws up close. They're not metal, like I said, but they look like real metal. And they may be metal, they're too light. Check out the bone claws. These are awesome. I really like these actually, so I think I probably will display these. The detail on them, the coloring, perfect. Shoulders, kind of very similar to what we were looking at earlier with the torso. And let's start with his unmasked portrait. And I love to have Wolverine unmasked portraits, but this doesn't do it for me. It's very good. The paint and sculpt are. It's just not my cup of tea. The hair is awesome. It's overly done, so there's a little bit too much of it for me, but it's decently accurate for Wolverine. Good shading in here, the blacks and browns, almost a little bit of red hint to them. The skin coloring looks good, not great. Great expression on him. His face looks a little overdone, like his chin looks a little bit big, in my opinion, and it could be the expression on his face. The eyes they look like decals, which I don't like. I like how they added some red to them. And someone commented that Wolverine has blue eyes during the live unboxing, so that may be accurate here. The teeth look great. I like how they're not perfect teeth. The coloring is right on. There's a moist glistening effect. The red on his bottom lip looks good. But then the other portrait, probably one of the best Wolverine portraits I've ever seen. First, let's look at the cowl. Some more folds. I like the black color they used on it. Very same thing they had on his boots. Looks great with the black and the yellow. And then the skin part, so I like the complexion of this a little bit better. His chin is much smaller, as you can see. And again, it could just be the expression of his face. But the detail around his lips and tongue and teeth, he has some sharp canines like Wolverine does, some fangs. And the inside of his mouth just looks awesome. This is such a good portrait. And I think it flows a little bit better with the statue as well. The sculpt on Wolverine, I love it. The unmasked portrait, like I said, a few things I would have done differently, but how I'm going to display him, I think it's an X sculpt. I think it's just knocked out of the park. This is going to be one of my favorite Wolverines, and as you saw on the table, there are tons of great ones here. Regarding the paint, I think the base it doesn't take away from the statue, but some of the things I talked about with that, some of the opportunity on the unmasked portrait, I think the paint's a 4 out of 5. Which is still really, really well done. So with value for this guy, you're about $1,000 all in, a little bit under. Some customs are around 1,000 or 1,500, and that's retail. Some of them flip for quite a bit more. This guy, I haven't seen him go for under 4,000 or 5,000 lately. But so I think value is phenomenal, especially with the 650 ES. So I think value on him is also a W, a 4 out of 5. Overall, I am loving this statue. I said this during the unboxing, with so many different switch outs and bone claws and metal claws, and I like them both. Almost makes me wish there was a yellow variant, or maybe I said that today. Makes me wish there was a yellow variant where I could display both of them, because they look like totally two different statues. So I'm going to give this statue an X. I think it's awesome. I think this is an X statue. It's extreme. He is not leaving my collection. So a lot of you probably tuned in and have already seen 1 or 2 reviews on this XM Wolverine, and your primary interest was, hey, I want to see the Extrumble. That's what we call an extreme rumble, where we do comparisons of similar statues. Which Wolverine on this table of grails is actually the best? Well, what I want to do first is I want to introduce the Netflix generation to my generation. So with that being said,